Hey, moon lovers. Welcome to another episode of All Things Moon, Lunar Wisdom for Everyday Life with myself, Kelly Jones. And first of all, I must start this episode with an apology for the lack of episode last week. So I really can't explain to you what happened. It was as though time had gone quantum and I totally missed a week. It was quite a strange experience to be driving along in my car. I'd finished gardening on Monday with Tom, and I was on my way to go and buy some cat food. And I just suddenly realised it was Monday again, and I hadn't done a podcast. So forgive me for that. It feels like what one would call a senior moment. But anyway, I'm here. And last weekend, as I normally record on a Saturday or a Sunday, what I was doing on the Sunday is we were up in London watching the new production of the musical Starlight Express. So I was having a good time, which is partially why time went quantum, because it always seems to go faster when you're having a good time. So that's the good stuff. So this episode, summer solstice, roses, and a full moon. So we have just been through the longest day of the year here in the Northern Hemisphere. And it seems to have actually finally brought the summer sun with it. Because here in England, in the UK in general, we have been having dreadful weather this year so far. So we are all super grateful at this solstice time, not just for the harvest that it brings. And we have an abundance of strawberries this year. And I know lots of people seem to have struggled to grow their strawberries, but we have had loads. So there must have been some kind of warmth out there. Even if we couldn't see the sun, as we know, it is always there beyond the clouds. And that's how I like to be about life, really. That, even though it might all look bad, somewhere there is equal amount of good. And it's just where we place our focus. So to celebrate the solstice, I had a beautiful day with my goddess group, and we had a cacao ceremony in the morning and expressed our gratitude to Mother Nature and the sun. And we had a wonderful lunch made by our host, Fran. And then we sat at a table like a bunch of kids, cutting and sticking and creating vision boards, all to create our, co-create our future together. When women come together, something magical happens, doesn't it? So and then on Friday, we had a summer solstice gong bath on the full moon in Capricorn, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But just talking about the gong bath for a moment, we have, at the last gong bath that we held, we talked out loud about manifesting our intentions for more men to come along, because these events are always full of women with just, one or two token men. But, manifesting works, and it's must be a really good sign that more souls are awakening, as we had 7 men. That's including Tom, but we had 7 men in the building, which was fantastic. We were packed out, and I had lots of new people arrive who I've never met before, so the message must be spreading. And I really do think that, as we know from the astrology, that spiritual awakenings are much more likely right now. We're at this turning point in time where there is a massive shift in consciousness going on. And I really do believe that people are searching for something not just for their spiritual, mental, and emotional well-being, but also finding that feeling of safety and security, and something that makes them feel a little bit more empowered, like they actually have some power and control over their lives, because we have found ourselves in a world full of rules and restrictions. And as we know, this Pluto moving into Aquarius is going to lead us towards a freer way of being. But in the meantime, we are still seeing the crumbling and the ending of all those Capricornian archetypal things that are connected to Saturn, like rules and restrictions. So I made it quite clear at our gong bath that, there's no guidelines really. It's your experience. You take responsibility for your experience. We are just here to create the space and facilitate a state of, a place where you can find a state of equilibrium and balance, and allow yourself to be in the right place in yourself for healing to happen in whichever way that needs to be for you. And we certainly had some men there who really needed that, that's for sure. So anyway, all of this is going to become clearer as I talk about this full moon energy and the combination with the rose. So we are looking at the full moon in Capricorn, and that occurred at 7 minutes past 2 a.m. here in the UK. And it's one of actually two full moons. So we've got two full moons in a row. Obviously, in between that, we will have the new moon in Cancer. But before the end of Cancer season, we've got another full moon in Capricorn. So no full moon in Cancer this year. So this is, it's worth taking note of this culmination of extra Capricorn energy, as we have Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn to finish up its job. We have two full moons in Capricorn as well, which, if you've been listening, you will know that full moons are an end point, the fullest point, the culmination of things, the time to let things go and move forwards without and leaving behind those things that no longer serve us. It's pretty, it's quite unique to have back-to-back full moons in the same sign. So, this is quite unusual and is worth taking note of, this very strong Capricorn emphasis. It could be called, so whenever a full moon is, whenever we have a full moon, it's always opposite the sign that the sun is in. So the sun moved into Cancer on the solstice, and it's what could be called the nurturing axis. If you think Cancer as the archetype of the mother, and maybe although Capricorn is a feminine sign, it has that energy of the father about it. Very the practical one, that gets things done that we need, that earthy stuff for our roots, for our survival, goal setting and, discipline, things like that. So there are opposing forces such as work versus home. So Cancer being the homemaker and Capricorn being a goal setter and somebody who strives for success. And this is all very general, so if you are a Cancer or a Capricorn, remember you have a whole birth chart there of stuff that makes you different and unique. And these are just very generally the archetypes of these signs. And if we look at it out there in the world, then we're going to see these subjects, these emphasis on. So it might be what you need versus what you want. An inner tension versus external pressure. These to opposing things can lead to conflict and crisis that drain your energy. And with the nurturing energy of Cancer, which is ruled by the heart and soul and emotional energy of the moon, with a strong Capricorn sense of integrity, responsibility, and more a labour of love. A very poignant question I heard an astrologer called Brian Coulter ask in relation to these opposing forces, which is worth getting your journal out and pondering on, is how can I work hard, Capricorn, to heal well, Cancer? That's self-nurturing. So if you think about that question, quite often to heal what is no longer serving us, particularly, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment, but particularly with a very strong Neptune influence at the moment. Addictions, particularly addictions, can be greater, feel stronger at the moment. So it's going to be harder work to free yourself of those things that are harming you. So to give yourself self-care, self-love, self-nurturing, it might require some hard work and action. And we've got Mars in Taurus as well at the moment, so that action might be quite slow and ploddy and feel quite slow. But Mars will be moving into Gemini, so we'll be able to speed up on that action real soon. So with the Sun having just entered Cancer on the solstice, the emphasis on our home life has intensified. And with this Capricorn energy, it could be the practical, grounded subjects that have been coming up, not to mention water, because Cancer is a water sign. We have Neptune at the 29th degree of Pisces. So, and the moon always brings up our emotions. A full moon always strengthens our emotions. It causes the tides to be higher. So, for me, myself at the moment, I was going to be attending a solstice event this weekend. We've got some friends who are having their first ever gig there. They're a couple, are friends of ours. He's a DJ, so he's DJing, and she's a water mastery healing massage therapist. And she was going to have a massage tent there. But we realised that a lot of the reason that we wanted to go and attend this thing was for other people, not actually for ourselves. And if we sat down and concentrated on what we really needed, it was to be at home. My cat is still poorly, if not slightly better this week. Seems to be a little bit of improvement, but I've wanted to keep my eye on her. And also, our boiler has broken and we have no hot water. So there you go. Our focus is on our home life, and we're having to attend and take action on practical things to do with water. So I like to give you these examples. The moon represents the people in Capricorn. So it means we will probably be seeing old systems and beliefs based on superiority, the empire, disintegrating. And in their place, with the help of Neptune, we are dreaming up or imagineering a more Aquarian, humanitarian approach and a shared responsibility for the welfare of everyone and everything. A call for the return of community. And I am seeing that. I don't know if you guys are seeing that out there, but there is definitely, if we look at social media about communities, groups, finding your tribe. These are all things that we may not have talked about 10 years or so ago, but they are becoming more, normal, everyday conversation around things like community. People are searching for connection with others. And being a Strala yoga guide, I know that to have connection with others, we need to have connection to ourselves. So switching off from social media to take notice of yourself and simply notice how you feel, and take a few moments to breathe and just be with yourself, means that we are then getting used to how we feel. We're letting those feelings pass through us in whatever way that we need to do that. Me personally, being on my yoga mat and just sitting there with my journal is my time to notice how I'm feeling. Let those feelings pass, even if they're not good feelings, and just let them be there. And just like the clouds, they eventually move on. And sometimes they're darker and they're there for longer. And then eventually the light of the sun burns them away. We have Venus and Mercury in Cancer right now. So they are lovely energies to have in Cancer. I actually have Mercury in Cancer in my birth chart. So Mercury is just coming round for a little return shortly. And obviously my Sun return as well. So this is going to be my 54th, I can't even say it, 54th turn round the Sun. So how exciting that I've made it this far and I'm still this happy. So I'm just having some of my lovely coffee, and I have got some of my lovely rose elixir in my coffee for a bit of self-love. So we've got Venus and Mercury in Cancer, but they are not sort of, making too much emphasis. Undoubtedly, this full moon being in a square, a challenging aspect to Neptune, who is at the 29th degree of Pisces, is definitely the dominating aspect. Bringing a sense of maybe confusion, deception, insecurity, and disillusionment is likely to be felt. And I, for one, have been deeply in that hole recently. So I think that was last week that I really did feel that with the Saturn emphasis last week, that sort of, going from being an optimist to a pessimist overnight, and then 24 hours later that aspect has moved on and I feel positive again. And then this week on the actual solstice, as the sun moved into Cancer the day before this full moon, I really felt dreadfully emotional and some self-doubt and disillusionment came in for me. And sometimes it only takes one small thing to trigger that emotion, but I was grateful for it. It's brought it up to be seen. And obviously there is that feeling, hiding around there, and sometimes it comes up and it's like, okay, so I am really feeling like this. How can I sit with it, and what's going on, and what can I do for myself to alleviate and move on from that? So that's where your journaling comes in really handy. Pluto is also aspected, and this creates what you call a four-sided configuration and a pattern that's called a provocative aspect pattern. Provocation. A provocative aspect pattern is formed by 4 aspects together. So the full moon aspects mentioned with Pluto and square to Neptune. So this energy, it can cause a bit of nervousness and restlessness, and always finding something that's not right instead of seeing everything that is right. It can put you there. So, use the tools that we know that we have. We have this free thing called breath. So whenever I'm feeling that, suddenly I feel like my insides have tightened up, I just stop and take a moment to breathe, to soften, and to just simply notice how I'm feeling and let that feeling just be there, and then softly moving on, much more calmly. Allow your movements and your breath to move you, and then you can go through your day without that sort of inner tension going on. So a full moon squaring Neptune can distort your perception of reality, and it can sometimes affect your intuition. So where you might always trust your intuition, you could slightly doubt it. It could maybe be a little bit overprotective, maybe, and not necessarily tapping into your true intuition. You might become more sensitive and easily hurt. That was definitely how I was feeling on Thursday. I had a wonderful day with my goddess friends, but then at the very end of it, I was overly sensitive. I was easily hurt, and I had a few tears come out. And this energy can make you more vulnerable to over idealization and being taken advantage of. And I didn't feel like I'd been taken advantage of, but I definitely had over idealized the situation. And then my lovely Sagittarius friend, who are always blunt with the truth, spoke the truth, and I was overly sensitive to it. So, I forgive myself for that, because it's just a transit, and it's moving past, and it shows us how we really feel. However, this particular energy can, mean that, go get some entertainment, going to the theatre is a really great idea. Watch a comedy, do something creative. They are healthy ways to escape and feel safer in your own self than those addictions that numb us out. Numbing it out doesn't make it go away. It just puts it on hold, and it will still be there. So it's not letting it pass through and do what it's showing you. So just coming back to that Capricorn thing, that question for you of how can I work hard to heal well? The Cancer, with the sun being in Cancer, it's also in an aspect which I don't normally talk about, sort of sextiles and quincunxes, because that's really getting into more complicated astrology. But the sun is in an aspect called a quincunx to Pluto. And a quincunx is when two planets are 150 degrees apart. It's known as inconjunct to each other. And this can really give a strong feeling of itchiness. Not necessarily physically, but, itching to do something. A little sense of inner discomfort, discord, or discontent. That can intensify any stresses and fears and escalate tensions. So you feel like you're having a mini crisis, a conflict, or threatened by something. So just remember that these aspects can cause you to feel that a little bit more strongly, and maybe rather than just reacting to it and feeling like, the world's coming to an end and it's a crisis, just remember that these energies are there to help us, not to hinder us. It could be an event or a person that might trigger this tipping point by taking away your power. So staying in your power is to stay in your body and dropping down into your heart space knowing that you can create a feeling of safety for yourself just by using your breath, by feeling grounded, rooting down into the earth, getting outside, put your feet on the ground, take your gardening gloves off and actually touch the mud. I've been doing that this week. A positive response to this would be diverting your ego, letting go, and that trusting in a higher power. And so you can see why we had a busy gong bath. Because when you come to a gong bath, the ideal way to be in the healing space is to divert your ego, let go, and trust that there is a higher power there. And I think things like the gongs and the singing bowls and all those sounds, didgeridoos, things like that, they really do allow us to experience something that's almost like we can't reach it, but we know it's there, and it reminds us that it's there, and we don't need to work it out. We don't need to work everything out. Let the mystery be there. I'm pretty sure that most of the people that come along to the gong baths aren't necessarily conscious of this reasoning, but maybe subliminally attracted to something that assists in their personal growth, which ultimately brings about a sense of empowerment and healing. Just checking that time. Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. So, just one more aspect to talk about, and that is Neptune is also sextile to Pluto, and sextiles are good. It's an aspect formed when two planets or signs are about 60 degrees apart, and that indicates compatibility, harmony, and opportunity. So Neptune sextile to Pluto can help you to feel less fearful, brave enough to challenge the accepted ways of thinking and doing things. So kind of being a little bit rebellious and standing up for what's right and good, and helping to deconstruct any outdated systems and beliefs and then reconstruct it in a more advanced and pure-hearted way. So these are the energies of this week. And talking of pure-hearted, that leads me nicely to the subject of roses and their magic and their very profound spiritual significance, love, beauty, and inner growth, and how it relates to the heart. With Venus and Mercury in my sign of Cancer right now, I really have a strong desire to communicate the values of Venus. And just as the rose, effortlessly opens its petals to the world, and love invites us to, embrace being vulnerable and reveal our true selves. Roses serve as a gentle reminder that the act of loving unconditionally can lead to a blossoming of our own hearts and spread the fragrance to those around us. My garden is abundant with roses, particularly my dad's rose, Penny Lane rose, which I have going over an archway in my garden. I've collected so many rose petals. I've made rose water, rose tinctures, rose elixir, and I'm making rose tea. And the smell, I've got one of my roses next to me here in a vase. It's absolutely massive, and the scent is beautiful. The rose is also deeply connected to the priestess path and the lineage known as the rose lineage. It's associated with the sacred feminine and the teachings of the rose's wisdom as it relates to Venus. And Venus's orbit, if you were to draw the pattern, so you can find this if you look on YouTube, you can probably find Venus's orbit, and you can see the pattern creates a 5-petaled rose in the sky. So The rose path is rooted in ancient wisdom and esoteric traditions. Also, as we know, roses have thorns. And the thorny part to me is where the growth happens. So beyond its velvety petals, the rose bears thorns. And they are, gentle protectors guarding its fragile beauty. And being a Cancerian, my pincers can come out to protect my soft insides. In our spiritual journey, the thorns represent the challenges and hardships that we encounter along the way, and the rose thorns strengthen its stem. So if you apply that to ourselves, our thorns, our growth, it strengthens us from the inside out. These obstacles have the potential to strengthen our character and nurture our inner growth. And, embracing our thorns with grace and resilience. And, that will allow us to fully appreciate the beauty that arises from overcoming adversity. There are an abundance of roses, not just in my garden, but down the street from me. There's some roses that grow that don't seem to belong to anybody, but they are absolutely fantastic. So I took some of them to our cacao ceremony the other morning to, as an offering to the earth, to the ceremony. And just a little bit about my rose tinctures that I make. Throughout history, roses have been associated with healing properties and they have therapeutic benefits. Their essence has been used in various ancient traditions, but its main thing is that it soothes the mind. It uplifts the spirit. Just looking at a rose and smelling a rose can do both of those things almost instantaneously. So what I do is I take that essence and put it in a bottle so I can take it everywhere with me. It's really good for restoring emotional balance, for any heartache, grief, and it is just purely a bottle of self-love. And it's very, very easy to make. Trust yourself. You are smart enough to make these things yourself. You literally just need some kind of pure alcohol. So I use an organic vodka, but you can use apple cider vinegar. And there will be apples around shortly, so you can make your own apple cider vinegar really easily. In the realm of spirituality, the rose holds the power to rejuvenate, a weary soul. Offers hope and comfort in times of distress. And it reminds us to take moments of self-care and nurture our own well-being. So I am just checking the time again here. Yeah, that's what we've gone a little bit over today. But the good news is that I am now attempting to use the new platform that Spotify are using called Riverside. So yesterday I did attempt to try and film this as well, but I just couldn't manage to get my iPhone to work as a camera through this platform. I will work it out, I promise. As you know, I'm not exactly a tech whiz, but I do know some tech whiz people that can help me. So I'm still only on audio at the moment, but watch out. You might actually get to see my face again soon. So I can go a bit over time today. So I've just got something I wanted to finish off with. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee. Okay. So with all this rose emphasis at the moment, I was called to use the Rose Oracle cards by Rebecca Campbell this week. And I was shuffling through the cards and I realised that, with the card that's kind of like the instructions that comes in the box was in there. So I pulled it out and then I did the same thing again. So I decided to take notice of what was on the card. And with this feeling that I have to be called to communicate the values of Venus out to you, this Rose Oracle attunement, which is the attunement that you use to, before you use the cards, you bless the cards. And I read this out yesterday and I realised that it perfectly explains my purpose, really, in all that I do, the reason that I'm doing this, sharing this stuff with you. So I am going to read it out to you because Rebecca Campbell has an amazing way with words. So rather than rewrite something that's already perfectly written, I'm going to read out her Rose Oracle attunement to you. May it be the gateway for all to return to ourselves, the earth, and each other. May our connection with the voice of our soul be made stronger with every use. May all who touch it feel cherished, held, loved, softened, and seen. May it deliver insight, understanding, compassion, and guidance that's in the highest interest of all beings, past, present, and future. When I'm holding space for another, help me to step out of the way and invite others to connect with the wisdom that exists deep within them. Guide me and all who use it to embrace our ever-changing true nature and the seasons of our lives with compassion, understanding, and grace. Show us how we can plant ourselves here more deeply than ever before. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So yeah, that's why I'm here, folks. You know, I share my wisdom, but get out of my own way so that you can discover yours within you. And I did actually pull an oracle card for us, and this card is called The Return. A new story, you decide. Alignment, it's coming together. And I think that's perfect for all what we've been talking about. You know, empower yourself to know yourself enough that you can write a new story. You decide. And we're all coming together, aren't we? We're connecting. It is coming together. So I'll just finish with this card heralds a great shift in your life. This often takes time, sometimes even lifetimes. Acknowledge how far you've come and how much you've grown. You're a part of creating change, not only in your own life, but in the world. Take a moment to take it in. You're just one of many, but your being here matters. A petal in the rose of a new humanity, part of the forever unfolding. And I'm going to leave you on that note because I've been waffling for nearly 40 minutes now. So thank you for listening. Please send me any questions, any comments that you have that are, useful and interesting. And, do reach out if you're experiencing any of these energies and want a little bit more guidance. I can do a moonology reading for you. I can do an astrology reading for you now. And I'm going to leave it there. All the details of where to find me will be found below. And I look forward to talking to you next week. Happy summer solstice. Blessings to you all.